All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order for the City Council of Lake Mills, April 5th, 2022. Can we have a roll call, please? Sam, are you there?
Yes, I am. Sorry. I was
Thank
making
you.
copies of the agenda. We ran out. Ms. Curler,
Here.
Mr. Waters,
Here?
Mrs. Bishop,
Here.
Ms. Quiznow.
Quednow.
Sorry,
Here.
Quidnow. Mr. Fields.
Here.
All right, thank you. Would everyone please rise and join us for Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Corrections and/or approvals of the City Council regular meeting minutes of March 15th, 2022, work session minutes of March 16th, 2022, special meeting of March 22nd, 2022, and work session minutes of March 23rd, 2022. Can we have a motion to approve all four of those?
I move to approve those meeting minutes for March.
A second.
Motion by Ms. Bishop, second by Ms. Quidnow.
Quednow.
Quednow.
Quednow. We're good?
All of a sudden, you're correcting me on this.
all
All
right.
right, is there any comments on the city council minutes? All right, seeing none, can we have a roll call vote on that?
Ms. Curler,
Aye.
Mr. Waters,
Aye.
Mrs. Bishop,
Aye.
Ms. Quidnow,
Aye.
Mr. Fields.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you. All right, correspondence. Ms. Bishop.
Yes, okay. I'm just going to go in order of what I received. So I received one correspondence about measures the city can take for historic preservation. I received a correspondence which covered a variety of topics such as voting in the city, city communications to voters, community input at meetings, and Sandy Beach redevelopment generally. One communication was about Sandy Beach, specifically with questions about the proposed cottages and campsites in the proposals that we received. The next communication had a list of concerns about the potential quality or lack of quality of EMS if they are moved to the fire department and what that will look like for the city. The next one was, I guess, a maintenance issue on one of the corners of streets, Owens and Franklin, and I forwarded that to the city manager to follow up on. And then an email supporting our decision for PFAS testing. And finally, an email or a letter, I think we all received it, regarding a attempted break-in and the alarm that the person had with regard to not the quality of our police force, but the numbers of our police force and how those numbers have remained the same for the last 20 years.
Ms. Quidnow.
She had the same correspondence that I did. All of the correspondence with regard to the police concern, the Sandy Beach questions with regard to the proposals that were put out for public notice. A lot of phone calls, actually. I got a lot of phone calls from people with regard to Sandy Beach, so that was nice to talk with people, as well as emails with having to do with the things that Ms. Bishop has already explained. So.
Great. I'll try not to repeat. So a lot of that was the same, but I think I had two Sandy Beaches. I think they were both in the last couple days. And also local business concerns. I had 2 different ones in that regard as well. So, Mr. Fields?
I had very much similar on the couple on Sandy Beach, one on planning, trying to keep our small town feel. And I did have one phone call about our yard waste site and about how muddy it is there with some of the potholes, but it has been dressed up since then, and I did pass them on to city manager just for different ideas what we could do to possibly help it out down there.
Great.
I received similar contacts regarding emergency services, the thank you on the PFAS testing. One other item I think came since our last meeting that I think we all received was a letter from the Joint Rock Lake Committee regarding stormwater basin at Sandy Beach Boat Launch. And I'm not sure if that was also sent to the Parks Board, but I'm wondering if that would be something for the Parks Board to take up.
The Parks
those
Board
questions.
has received a presentation from the Rock Lake Improvement Association, so.
Oh, this was specifically about the one stormwater basin? Okay,
Yep.
great. Just want to make sure.
All right, anything else? Great, moving forward. This is the question and public comment section, so the public is encouraged to address the council at this time regarding items on the agenda. Public comment may also be made at this time on items that are not on the agenda if you've registered with the city clerk before the meeting has been called to order. The state's open meeting laws discourage action by the council on items not listed on the agenda. Please keep your comments limited to 3 minutes and state your name and address when starting your comments, and fill out the sign-in sheet provided. For those attending online, please type your name and address in the chat feature. All right, the floor is open. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Tom Beekle, N6617 Short Hills Road, Lake Mills, Wisconsin. First item is I just want to discuss EMS. I know there isn't anybody in this room that isn't heartfelt to the situation that we're in, and especially with an operation that served the community for so long. It's very, very difficult stretch. But I do want to say this is not just, it's not just our community, it's a statewide issue. There's a lot of independent organizations struggling. There's a lot of fire departments and EMS combined that are struggling. It's going on, and it's not going to go away. And what I'll say is I think, we need to be very innovative and take a community approach to this, involving all the townships, the other cities, City of Jefferson, Waterloo, all the close-knit people, and try to come up with a overall solution to try to keep things in perspective from a cost standpoint, just because we are getting bombarded with a lot of costs on a lot of different fronts. Again, it's a very difficult situation, and I think we can all work together, and I hope that the towns are going to have a voice at some of these meetings, because there are independents knocking on the doors now, and the last thing I want to see, for the long term, is for people to jump here and there, when I think, with the growth we're going to see in Jefferson County in this area, to be sustainable, we have to have a much better solution to be sustainable in the long run. Secondly, I know there's some things and proposals going on at Sandy Beach. It sounds like you got a lot of correspondence on that. I just want to remind everybody that, there's a lot of ideas floating around. I think, it's always great to see kind of the idea generation, but just be wary, and that they're wary that once it hits the water, they're subject to town ordinances and state law. So anything that does happen in the water, obviously, that would be addressed on a different front. Good news, we have a Parks Committee in place now in the township. First time in a long time since that ordinance was developed way back when. Our parks desperately need it, which is great, and they're off to a great start. The first thing they're going to be doing is having our actual local FFA from the Lake Mills High School come in and do a cleanup and learn about invasive species and pick some invasive species and help do some of that in this month in April. We're hoping to have a speaker there from DNR, our expert on invasive species as well, to give a little bit of talk. This is all being approved by the town board. We do have a parks ordinance, so there was not a volunteer waiver. We have accomplished that. It's going through legal right now, and we will have that in place. So in the future, we can do things the right way. But we will be approving that at the town board, as well as we have to approve people that are doing activities in our parks for a number of reasons. I'm not sure if any of you are aware, but there was a brochure that came around from the Rock Lake Improvement Association. I'm not sure how it was dispersed. I think Jefferson County Land and Water was also on that brochure. We have not approved those activities that they're doing, and that's a violation of the town ordinance. I think the intent is really great, and it's a really good thing that the public is going to get involved. But at the same time, safety is at the top of our mind, and we have to do things the right way. And I think having some semblance of a plan and approaching our Parks Committee that can make a recommendation to the town board or coming to the town board meeting to get that approved, that would be great. It was a very vague brochure, so it was Rock Lake, and Rock Lake's a big circle, so there's a lot of parks and public spaces. So I'm sure, you know, in the past, the town has not dumped garbage and things like that on city property, and it's been frowned upon, and now there's going to be a dumpster at Bartles Beach apparently, I think for everybody to use, but, you know, I would like confirmation on that, or at least the town board would, to make sure that that's okay, because in the past we have not done that. So there's just a lot of little antiquities there, and, you know, we just want to make sure that everybody's having, you know, having fun and volunteering. I think, you know, we never want to deter that, but we have to just make sure we have a good process in place. That's all I have tonight. Thank you very much for your time. I know you have a busy night tonight.
Any questions for Tom? All right, thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Good evening. Excuse me. Patrick Doyle, 325 East Washington Street, Lake Mills. I'm following up on conversations I had both with Steve and Greg last summer in reference to the cafe license for putting tables outside of our location at 109 West Lake Street, and the problem last year in that we didn't have sidewalks to put the tables out on. We had 7 months of construction downtown, extended a little bit because the curb was put in and then had to be torn out and replaced. So things, all told, we were about 7 months. We're at that, when I talked to you, Greg, last year, you had said to follow up with you this year that we had already paid the money and we would discuss possible solutions for this year. So we're there. We just got the renewal application. The renewal application states that we have to pay the $100 fee prior to them moving it forward. I don't know if this is cutting in and out, kind of sounds like it.
You're good.
So we're at that point. We have turned in all the information for the renewal. We have not sent in the check, and I'm looking to see if you wouldn't consider waiving that fee this year, considering we paid it last year and could not use it. So, and I'm coming to you at this time because, as I said, in the renewal letter, it says that we have to pay the fee before they will even consider and put through our renewal for this year. So
I did check with Misty on that, Patrick, and it comes up in front of council next month in May. So we'll be reviewing it at that point. As far as waiving or the fee, I think you can go ahead and submit the paperwork without the check, and
okay.
And we'll discuss it in the May time period.
Because it did say in the renewal that, in the application, that if you did not attach the monies, it would not even be moved on. So as long as we have a confirmation that
submit
we're
the
good with that,
application, yeah.
that's fine.
All right.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
One other point to maybe consider with that is that it is the practice of other cities in the area, Watertown being one of them, that the city governments are waiving that fee as an encouragement for businesses to do more of that in the downtown areas, just a piece of information we wanted to pass along. Thank you.
Is there any other questions for Patrick? All right, thank you.
Hello, Mary Doyle, 325 East Washington Street. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My one question is in regards to the process in hiring our new city manager. And I'm wondering if there'll be any opportunity for city or community members to be involved in the process, like a question and answer forum. Oftentimes, in school districts, they'll have something similar when they're hiring a superintendent. They do give an opportunity for the community to have a question and answer. So I'm just posing that to you and to think about that and to hopefully have that happen. So, thank you.
So Mary, we did just hire a firm for the search for a new city manager. And during the interviewing process, we did convey that was important to the council, that we did have a community feedback session built into the process.
Excellent.
So that is part of the process moving forward. So the whole process is still in development as we
sure.
work with this firm, but that is something the council wants to see happen, so yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much for this time.
Hi, my name is Lynn Cleghorn. I live at 523 South Main Street, and I have a couple questions regarding the Sandy Beach proposal. In 2017, Place Dynamics did a feasibility study. In 2019, Mead and Hunt did another study, and it was a really good presentation, a lot of good information. And now, in 2022, we have bids going out, and what we have in common here is there's been no public input. We haven't had a chance to tell you what our dreams are for that part of our city. And that is the jewel of Lake Mills. This isn't something that should be rushed through. Please don't make the mistake of not including us. That's why we voted for you. I have a question about RFPs. How are those sent out? Do they go to organizations or?
Steve, do you want to handle that one?
Yeah, they're advertised in certain documents. So the primary one is the Lake Mills Leader, because that's our legal requirement. And then we sent it to the Restaurant Association, and they emailed it to all their customers. And then we went through the League of Wisconsin Municipalities.
Okay. I was a little surprised to see you only got 2 responses. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, it was at a time when a lot of the businesses were still recovering from COVID, so it might have played into it, and the location is a little bit difficult for some of them, so a lot of them aren't used to dealing with how to handle a public entity relationship, so that could play into it too. But I did, like Burlington has one, Milwaukee has several, Sheboygan has a couple, Kewanee has one. So it's not out of character for them to be around. They're very common in Florida, especially on the intercoastal. But we'll just have to see what happens here. I know that we provided the Place Dynamics. Place Dynamics did the initial financial review and kind of made some recommendations that were, the council rejected some, and then Mead and Hunt came in and did another one, and then the council refined that one. So there were actually 3 full reports done. So the final one is didn't have any cabins. I know
Right,
the one
the
referred.
city turned that section down.
Right, I know the
Yeah.
one referred to 100 cabins, but what they really were referring to were the trailers. We still have 90 trailers there. So at one point we still have 100 lots for trailers, but I think that's the route that was headed. So what we're looking at tonight is to decide whether how we want to proceed forward. And so the council's going to have that debate tonight, and so your comments will surely fit into that.
The surveys that are going to be sent out, will those have an area marked for Sandy Beach proposals or ideas? Or maybe maybe the better question is, why didn't we have the surveys go out even before the RFPs?
Well, I guess the question is we came to a point where we thought we were ready to do an RFP. And I was asked to prepare an RFP and put it out and see what we would get. At that point in time, generally what happens is you review the RFPs, see if they make any sense. Then you generally come back and interview the people. And then from there, you kind of try and make a decision on that. And that's pretty public. So it's still in process.
I think the RFP lists a decision be made by council around this date, and that's not going to happen. It'll be pushed out. We have a lot on our agenda, and no one's comfortable moving forward with that restaurant as of tonight. So there's still a process to go through.
Okay, just don't forget us. Thanks.
Thank you, Lynn. Any questions for Lynn? Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online? Going once? Going twice? Public comment is closed. Thank you. All right, we'll move to the city manager report. Mr. Wilkie?
I provided you with 4 documents. 2 of them are on the Rock Lake Activity Center and the multi-use report that was done. So it went over the ad hoc committee that did the review and their report. And then it also had the engineering information that went along with their work, kind of background information, because you're probably going to be looking at that definitely in your strategic planning, but probably in a council meeting in the next month or two, because there's some questions that the school district wants to have answered, as does the Rock Lake Activity Center board. And they can't move forward without a council decision, so I'm trying to give you background information on a regular basis for that. And then the 2 check registers. So unless there's anything else, my report's complete.
Questions? Lisa, Mrs. Curler.
Steve, I just was curious on the multi-use community facility. So obviously, we're going to be needing to think about land or building purchase, building upgrades, operations. If the city were going to pursue option 1, which, looking at the documentation, that was sort of the recommended option a few years ago. So is that what you're going to be bringing us, sort of updated information then in a month or so to make a decision on which option?
Yeah. Last council meeting, you were provided with the MOU that went along with that, and that was kind of the background for how they would attach together. So we do have a few more participants in the project now. The Lake Mills Community Foundation and the Watertown Health Foundation have decided to participate and help us with that. So that's kind of some of the driving forces behind it, is that there's some additional money coming forward. But yes, we're trying to figure out exactly how we're going to structure it. Mainly what it looked at was they still owe about $260,000 on their mortgage. So it would be paying off the mortgage, doing any improvements to the building that could be made under the $500,000 cap. And then having the MOU with the school, who would then pay a lease to us. Those are the concepts that were involved in that. Doesn't mean that's the way it has to go. It just means that the previous council, which Steve sat on, that was the direction they were heading.
Any further questions? All right. I'll follow up on that RLAC. The group that's reviewing that, you had mentioned there's a couple additions. It sounds like the school board's part of that as well.
Yeah.
And is it Club 55 or is there other organizations involved in that?
Well, it'll have, Club 55 is part of, is going to be part of, in fact, I think it is part of the school recreation program.
Okay.
And so they're, what they're trying to do is have a facility that's from youth to seniors available in the community in the downtown area, particularly accessible from the middle school and the elementary school. And so that's what they're looking at, and trying to make sure that they have enough facilities available to carry that out and run their recreation programs. And so those are how those are tied together. We've initially the senior group wasn't called Club 55 at that time. Came to us, the city council, and asked them to move forward with a community center, and that's when the ad hoc committee was put together. And then they came out with their recommendation, and it moved forward to the point where we had the MOU. Then the school district had a change in leadership, Pam to Tanya. And it kind of slowed down at that point, and now it's kind of picked up again to look at what the issues are and try and figure out how to resolve them. Watertown actually paid to have a consultant come in and work with us to figure out what the issues were and how to resolve them. So that's kind of what's been driving this, is the two foundations along with the boards. So
in this scenario, we would be the owner of the building and the property and be the leaser, and the leasee would be the school board or the school who would run the programs. Okay.
Yeah, we don't run any recreation programs. The school district has done that since the 40s. Yeah, 49, I think. But we do provide most of the facilities that they use. In this case, we would have a lease with them that they would take care of the facility. We would have the long-term maintenance requirements, and I think if you read the MOU from before, you get all the details on that.
All right, anything else? Yes. Ms.
So,
Quidnow.
I know that you mentioned that there was an ad hoc committee. Are you the only city staff that sits in that ad hoc committee?
I think I was the only city staff. We did have the engineer who worked with that. Trying to remember, the chair pretty much ran the meetings. I was just an ad hoc.
The reason I ask is I'm wondering if it would be beneficial for us to consider having someone that is not city staff, and I'm putting myself out there as an educator, but also as a city council member, that maybe it would be wise to have an additional person on that committee to make sure that whatever relationship is going to be continued through that program and through the MOU, as you say, when you leave, that would be something that's consistent.
Well, the committee hasn't met in a long time. They were disbanded after they made their recommendations. And I think there were 10 or 12 of them. The negotiations recently go through Dan and I. Mm-hmm. So Dan will be as aware of what's going on as I am. So if that continues, Dan can pick it up and carry it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, I did just have one follow-up, and I'm assuming this will all be addressed when you bring it back more formally to the council, but will there be operations, like annual operations costs for the city, or is that going to be more borne by the school district?
Operations cost will be the school district. Ours will be capital costs. So
Okay.
We would definitely have a program for maintaining the facility.
New roof or whatever
A
those
new
kinds
roof.
of. Okay.
Yeah, initially, we put a new roof on it already. We did that a couple years ago. Now The new part of the building wasn't done. Probably what you would see as part of this would be, we'd put in a new boiler. We put in new flooring and a lot of ceiling tiles. So probably what you'd see this time around are windows, the registers, and those types of things. But that's kind of, we'd do an evaluation on that again before we did that. So I'm assuming that at that point, it's like all the other buildings. We go through our buildings every year, inspect them, come up with recommendations on what needs to be fixed. And then those are looked at through the capital process.
And I guess, just again, for you to think about, the information that you bring back to us, I'm assuming that there's a certain amount of city staff resources that are needed to manage the maintenance of the building. So I just want to make sure that's included in whatever, costs we're thinking about. To keep to do regular inspections of the building, maintain the building, separate from operating the school district programs, but the management of the maintenance of the building.
Okay. We may need to talk about that a little bit more later.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure how that fits, but we can talk about it.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you. So now we got a boatload of committee reports, some dating back to 2020. All right, Councilmember Board reports and acceptance of minutes from Plan Commission of January 25th, 2022, Police and Fire Commission of November 18, 2021, Parks Board of December 15, 2021, Parks Board of February 16, 2022, Zoning Board of Appeals of November 4th, 2020, Housing Authority of January 25th, 2022, and Joint Rock Lake Committee of February 10th, 2022. Council members have comments or questions on any of these minutes? All right, seeing none, can we get a motion to approve all these?
I move to approve all of the aforementioned minutes.
Second.
Just a point of order, I think in the past you, Mr. President, usually just receive the minutes. I don't know
Yeah.
that we need a motion and vote. If I remember right.
Fantastic, that makes it even better. But I appreciate the motion since I asked for it.
Well,
But, so we will accept these minutes into our record. Thank you. Council business, item A, board appointment of Robert Stroup of, to the Board of Review for the remaining term through March 31st, 2024. So this is my appointment. He's a pastor of Rock Lake Baptist Church. I got a chance to talk with him last week on the phone, and he's very community-oriented, and he's relatively new to the community, been here for about 4 years. So I'd like to make this appointment. If I can get a motion to approve Mr. Stroup to the Board of Review.
I'll make a motion to confirm the president's appointment of Robert Stroup to the Board of Review.
Second.
So motion by Ms. Curler, second by Mr. Fields. Any questions or comment? All right, seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Waters?
Aye?
Mrs. Bishop?
Aye.
Ms. Quidnow?
aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Lisa Curler? Ms.
Aye.
Curler, sorry.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Item B on the agenda is an update on EMS. Mr. Wilkie.
The been working on a memo pretty hard. Have 6 alternatives in it. Dwayne and Dan reviewed it over the last week. We're looking at some improvements to it. We received an email from the EMS representatives recently. We met with them and had some discussions. We are continuing to move forward with that. So we'll see what that has. That's now why we went from 5 to 6 options. So it's being incorporated and evaluated with the rest of them. And hopefully we'll have it coming out soon.
Do you have a time frame, an estimate at this point?
Well, I promised Tom I'd have it at the beginning of June for their board meeting. Leave. So
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I promised Tom from the town board that
Okay.
he'd have it for his June board meeting, so I have to have it to you guys sometime in May, or at least before his board meeting.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Sorry about the delay there. Item C on the agenda, discussion decision on request of waiver of special event fees for April 16th, 2022, Easter egg hunt, Lake Mills Optimist Club. All right, so there is a request of waiver in our notes for this meeting. Can I have a motion, or can we have a motion? One more time, can we have a motion for the request of waiver of special event fee? All right, scratch that from the agenda. Item D, discussion decision on agreement for engineering services, Traffic Analysis and Design Incorporated. This is motion 22-4-1-1. Sam, can you read the motion?
Discussion decision on agreement for engineering services, traffic analysis and design.
All right, city staff?
Obviously the,
Wait a minute. Let me get a motion here first.
oh, okay.
All right. Can we get a motion?
I move to approve motion 22-4-1-1.
Second?
She beat me to it.
All right, motion by Mr. Fields, second by Ms. Curler. Floor is open, Mr. Wilkie.
For a long time, we've planned on building on Savin Lane, so as the developers' agreements have been structured, they've looked at making sure that we don't have to do a special assessment. They've essentially waived their right to that. But the beginning part is to do an analysis of the intersection and what kind of improvements have to be done to the intersection. So this is the initial analysis that it would be moving forward. So it's a little over $6,000. It tells us what the best options are going to be. I can tell you what the best option is going to be. It's going to be to put CP Avenue through. But I don't know if that'll end up being a final option. So, and the state will require us to do the analysis anyways. So this brings forward that opportunity to start that project. In the memo, it does say that you might want to send it to Public Works Board next week and bring it back the next time. I really wanted to get this before you so that you had an opportunity to think about it and ask any questions and then make a determination on what you wanted to do. But that's where we're headed. We're headed towards the analysis of a intersection at that point.
All right, is there any questions or comment? Yes, Mrs. Bishop.
So this traffic analysis is really to determine the traffic and analyze the traffic in the event the school is built. Is that correct?
Yeah, kind of. And I provided you some of the documentation. So it analyzes all the existing traffic. It projects it uses the international transportation engineers' documents for making determinations how many traffic movements would come out of a school at any time period. It also is going to look at the potential for other developments in the area. And it does a preliminary review of that to make a determination of the concept of what kind of improvements would have to be made at that intersection in order to be able to add that road.
But the school, before it can even be built, has to go to referendum, and that hasn't happened yet, has it?
No, it hasn't.
Okay, so we don't even know that there's going to be a school there, but we're contemplating spending over $6,000 right now on a study?
Yes, that would be where we would be at. It would get dropped into the special assessment account and be billed against both. The city could build the road without having the school be there. So it's not necessarily tied to that, particularly if we get that grant. Even if the school district referendum doesn't pass, I would think that you would want to have that information available and be ready to go on putting those improvements in.
Okay.
But I don't have any problem with waiting a little bit longer, if that's what you're asking. I don't think we could wait until November, but at least a couple more meetings.
Any other questions? Ms. Curler?
I guess I have a follow-up, to Mrs. Bishop's remarks. So if the school project didn't go forward, if I recall right from our prior discussions on the grant application for extending CP Avenue, that is in our long-term, has been for many years in our long-term transportation plan. So we would still want to be bringing a street through there, and it's the Highway 89 connection that's triggering this requirement, right?
Yes.
So even if the school referendum doesn't pass in November, is this money is this initial TIA going to still be useful to us? Maybe some other development might occur at that intersection.
It would still be useful to you for a number of years, like 5 years. After that, they begin to get stale, and you would need to come back and do it again.
Okay.
The bigger debate is how fast that other part of the roadway expands to across the street. So there are other options there that are going on with development that make it not be we probably wouldn't lose our money there. It would be something we'd have to have done anyways. We might be billed differently, but it would still be built out.
Ms. Bishop?
I'm just going to follow up on that, and it has to do with my voting no at our last meeting on the grant for this. And given that CP Avenue has been thought about as an extension apparently in the city plan for years, what hasn't been addressed is how that's actually going to happen, along with Unshaven, on land that the city does not yet own, on land that would have to cross the Drumlin Trail, which is a huge attraction for people who both live here and who would want to come here and enjoy our natural attractions. And it would also, CP Avenue extension, would also have to parallel, where it is currently, the trail that you have to take just to get to the Drumlin. And so there has been no discussion on preserving those natural resources and again, building on land that we don't own. And so for those reasons, I'm going to vote no on this traffic analysis right now. At the most, if we don't extend it, or because the traffic analysis talks about a lot of different options, if you do end up needing something there, we're going to spend $6,000 to tell us we need to put a stoplight at that intersection, and I'm not willing to do that at this point.
I doubt that it would be a stoplight. Probably would end up being multiple lane additions. And
If there's a school built, which we don't know that that's going to happen.
right. Well, even if there wasn't, based on the fact that it's school-owned property, they would do the calculation based on its potential development. So you would have to consider that no matter what. And the school really can't sell the property. So,
Talking more about the extension of Unshaven to CP. That property, I cut myself off on the microphone.
yes, but so was I. I mean, the school's committed to that property by covenants from the donations. So they're going to own that property. So whenever anyone does an analysis of that intersection, it's going to be done on the fact that it's school property and that they would consider the types of traffic generation a school would provide. So it's probably not going to change much unless they can figure out how to get out of those requirements. So if we put it through, if we put CP through, they would probably still consider it at that level. And it would change the design of the intersection if you don't put CP Avenue through, but you still have CP built at some point. So being able to utilize, and I'm going to go back, Steve knows this, we took a lot of pressure to build CP through when South Main Street was done. And the combination of the special assessments and combination with the grant give us a great opportunity to leverage a lot of money at a very low cost for us. So, but again, I'm not going to push this tonight.
So, Mr. Wilkie, does this have any impact on the building of the extension to CP Avenue at this point?
It will, it doesn't tonight. It doesn't impact our grant at this point.
So what does it impact?
It impacts the school's analysis of their total costs.
Okay. So the school assessment, basically. All right.
Is that where did a request come from the school to have us do this analysis, or how did this get generated then?
The school started it, and we said we were going to build the road as a special assessment because it required both contributions from Lake Mills and St. Paul's. And as part of a special assessment, we would do the project, take it out of the special assessment account, and then bill it to them. So.
Any further questions? Yes.
I guess based on the fact that this doesn't sound like it's super time sensitive and we don't have a recommendation from the Public Works Board, I would like to make a motion to send this to the Public Works Board so that they can evaluate it. Maybe they'll have some additional thoughts and then it can come back
Can
to
you
the
make a
council.
motion to table?
Yeah, what's the right form? Make a motion to table it?
Appropriate response to
Okay.
motion to table this one and then give direction to send it back to subordinate boards.
Okay, so I'll revise my motion. I'll make a motion that we table this item 22-4-1-1 to our first meeting in May.
Or to send to the subordinate.
Oh, and send it to the Public Works Board, yeah.
I second Ms. Curler's motion to table this and send it back to the Public Works Board.
So there's a motion by Ms. Curler and a second by Mrs. Bishop to table and send to the Public Works Board. And is there any discussion on that table? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote on the tabling motion? Sam?
Mrs. Bishop?
Aye.
Ms. Quedno?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, so the motion has been tabled. All right, moving forward. Resolution 2213, disallowance of claim, Shapiro Family, Wisconsin LLC and 612 Lake Street LLC. Sam, can you read Resolution 22-13?
Resolution 22-13, disallowance of claim Shapiro Family, Wisconsin LLC at 612 Lake Street LLC.
All right, can we have a motion?
I move to approve Resolution 22-13.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Quidnow, second by Ms. Curler. Staff comment?
There has been a claim regarding 612 East Lake Street and an excessive tax assessment on that property. The petitioners of that claim have gone through the process, and the next step for them would be to file a claim in circuit court. And that's what I anticipate happening in this case. Disallowance at this time is appropriate to create a timeline in which they must file that claim if they are going to proceed with it. I've provided a number of documents that get us to this point with regard to the Board of Review and action that has been talked about or claims that have been made on this. We have been appointed outside counsel by our insurer on the claim, and both the insurer and that outside counsel have also recommended that this claim be disallowed at this time by the council.
All right, is there any comment or questions?
Just to clarify, so a vote in favor of this motion would be to disallow the claim, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you for clarifying. Any other comments or discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, please? Sam, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I said I didn't get a response, so I was a little worried. Ms. Quidnow?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Mrs. Bishop?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. All right, that wraps up council business. Next on the agenda is recommendations for future agenda. Any thoughts there? Yes, Ms. Bishop.
I know we've just taken up the PFAS issue, and so I'd like a broader discussion on water quality in Lake Mills. I've heard from several people, and now I myself have had quality issues at my house, and so I don't know if we should get a report from the city on what the current water quality is and mitigation factors that are coming into play, but I would definitely like to discuss it at a future meeting.
All right, we'll talk with Public Works and get a presentation. It sounds appropriate. Any other thoughts? Yes.
Actually, just a comment on that. I noticed on the city's website that there's hydrant flushing that's going on right now, so that could be a temporary issue, but I'm sure there's more to it than that. Steve, I just wondered, I know you've mentioned to us in the past you're thinking about possibly recommending a zoning administrator position, and I know you had sent us some consultant billing for our consideration. So is that something that we can expect to see sometime soon, or are you still thinking that over?
No, I think we'll see it sometime in the next several months. It's, I did an analysis, the first email I sent, which went over just the zoning administrator. And Dan reviewed and wrote a job description for me. And we're kind of looking at rolling it in with the neighborhood service officer. I think Brian's looking at retiring this year. And so I think we'll roll those together and make it one position, and then just have a in-house 40-hour-a-week zoning administrator, which hopefully will cure some of our communication problems on a daily basis.
Well, I just appreciate you sending that data, because I think we've all been aware that the workload there has been high, but it's also expensive. So might be nice to have something in-house, might make some sense.
Historically, it was done by the building inspector, but I think evidence from our side of the table has been that they didn't spend much time doing anything with it. And so as we were able to review the invoices coming in, we're starting to see what's actually going on. And, you know, it's kind of really cyclical. You know, we were really high up until 2008, and then we, you know, 9, 10, until 13, we really took a dive. And our fee generation in that time period was really low. And then it started to come back. So it's, and I'm anticipating that at some point in time, this market is going to hit a crest and start coming back down, and the fees aren't going to be there again. And so being able to control that is important. So we're looking at, you know, what it's going to balance out at and those types of things. But I think at this point in time, it's, we can go back and justify a zoning administrator.
Okay, thanks.
It'll probably save us some money.
And then I just had noticed that we have some upcoming work sessions. I know on Monday, April 18th is goal-setting strategic planning. I think I saw also posted something on April 19th, but I don't recall what that one was for, so.
Executive search? That's when
That's to meet
that's
with
when you
our-
guys get to have the conversations that these people were asking you about.
Okay. So that's the same night as our next council meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
We anticipated, I shouldn't say that. That was the best night that worked for them. That night will be the reorg. And so we generally try not to put a lot on the agenda because there's going to be changes. So we'll see how that goes. But Dan sent out the questionnaires to the people that were designated, and hopefully you sent them back in. And they'll be ready to start having conversations on, you know, what kind of direction you want to head and what kind of profile you want to put together, and what kind of timeline you're looking at.
So would it be safe to say that if people have thoughts right now, that they should communicate with us on what those thoughts may be about what they would want in a city manager?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, talking to you is fine, a good process. That's where it should start. The consultants are obviously going to take some time to do some evaluation on that too. But they're probably going to go to you more than anybody else. And then really what happens is during the interview process, if you remember right, they test them. They run them through certain types of projects, and then generally they hold a public meeting where they invite the community, and then they allow each applicant to stand up front and answer questions from people. So it's a pretty intense process. So some of them a lot of times they bring them in on a Friday night, and they'll do that initial meeting with the council and staff, and then Saturday through Saturday night, all day Saturday, they'll run them through the whole gamut, and then Saturday night they'll have the big public interview, and then generally they either get to go home or spend the night in a hotel again. But they generally gruel them out over that, 36-hour time period. Generally, if they are invited in, so that on a Friday afternoon, someone in the city can take them on a tour of the city and show them all the facilities and all the things that are going on in the city and give them kind of a briefing. The consultants generally provide them with a certain amount of documents and locations to be able to find stuff so that they're well briefed on what's happening in the city and what the conditions are. You'll know who did their homework and who didn't.
All right, any other comments or future agenda items? All right, seeing none, this is where I normally would adjourn the meeting, but that's not going to happen tonight because we're going to move into a work session. Normally, we have these work sessions in one of the conference rooms because there's nobody in attendance But tonight, we're going to go ahead and throw some tables out here in front, and we're going to have our work session right here in the chambers. So if you want to stick around, you're welcome to. The video part will discontinue at this point, and we'll adjourn the meeting after our work session is done.
Can I move to take a 5-minute break between?
Sure, is there a
I'll second
second? All in favor? All right, 5-minute break, thank you.